Farah, and we are talking about Kamala's America, the nightmare scenarios. What will our country be like on day one, day 100, after 4 years of a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz administration, should they be elected or just take office? So with me today, I have somebody very, very special. We are talking to important, well, people with important opinions who are experts in their fields, very smart people. And Victor is just such a man. He is retired, but he was in the Department of Homeland Security as a supervisory special agent with ICE. That's hard for me to say. And maybe I'll have you explain this, Victor. You were in Homeland Security investigations, so you can bring that up at any time and explain what that meant. So Victor obviously has years of experience on the border. He has spoken to foreign governments about the problems of human trafficking, drug cartels, just all of the big package of this migration and cartel issue, organized crime issue. And so he comes to us with special understanding, and I believe we're going to find he also has great wisdom in this. Thank you for joining me, Victor Avila. It is a great pleasure to have you with me.
My
So,
pleasure.
you know, before we go into more background and all that, I'd like to establish the tone again of this interview by asking again the question, and then there's so much more, but what is this nightmare scenario? Should Harris and Walz take office?
Well, I'll tell you that it will be nothing short of a nightmare because we already have had an incredible taste of what is to come. I cannot, I don't want to imagine what the next level is. And I'm talking about the disregard for our Constitution and protection of our sovereignty. I've seen it the last 3.5 years under this administration, which, by the way, it's not just me saying it. It's every agent. No one on the border had ever seen this before.
So Kamala Harris was appointed by her boss to deal with the mass illegal immigration issue. They say now it's the root causes, which I'm going to get there. She didn't go to the border, and she said that our borders are secure. Are they?
They're not. They're absolutely not. And she never really technically has been to the border. She went to El Paso, Texas, to my hometown one time, and she did not go to the border. Now, El Paso is a border town, but El Paso is a big, big city. She did not set foot nowhere near the actual line. She didn't go to the wall. She didn't even go to a port of entry. She went to Northeast El Paso, a border patrol facility, and that was her justification for visiting the border. Remember the pressure that was put on her to do that. So she doesn't understand what it's like because she actually has never seen it. And I'll tell you this really quick because I've taken so many people down there, and when they stand there, it automatically, and I tell you because I've seen it firsthand, what I go through and the feelings that I go through, I see them go through that. And then they tell me, Victor, man, I'm angry. I feel hopeless. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel all these mixed emotions standing here. And I tell them, well, why do you think I do what I do? Because I go through those emotions every single day. And yet they see the terrain. They see what's happening. And all of a sudden, it all kind of clicks and says, I get it. But it was because they actually went down
You
there.
got to have
It's,
boots on the
it's
ground, and you've got to see. You can't say do a war, prosecute a war, and be 1,000 miles away and look at it through a camera. It is not the same thing. She went to Central America and she spoke to, I think, I'm not sure which three countries it was together there. Did she accomplish anything?
No, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna preface that visit by why that visit meant nothing. She went and visited. It was Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. That's the triangle there. the Northern Triangle, they call it. But Biden said in Guatemala, and they put it all over the papers, and was front page news saying, "Send us your children, send us your illegals." And so when Kamala went there, it wasn't to try to prevent them from coming or making a deal with those governments to stop the flow of their citizens coming to us. It was more of a, how are we going to help you? Well, you know what they ended up doing is giving them $4 billion. And you know, the left always thinks they're going to solve things with money. And this is so instead of cutting them off like President Trump did, they actually gave them more money. And so do you think that these corrupt governments in these countries were going to stop? Of course not. They took the money and allowed their people to continue to come up north.
And she was on camera. There's a small clip where she's saying, "Don't come to the border," something like that. So that was performative. That was just for the cameras. The fix was in, the deal was done. It's all over the newspapers. It's in Spanish. You probably even have a copy of one of them or screenshots where it actually says in the article, "Send us your children, send us your illegals." That is from the President of the United States.
That's true. That's 100% true. That's a fact. And so they did. And
Now,
so
what is your,
what happened?
let me ask you a question real quickly. We're Americans. We love this thing called the Constitution, and America, beside other very important things, is born on the truth, the reality, the goodness of the rule of law instead of the rule of men. The rule of men means arbitrary, whatever man's there or woman makes a new law, doesn't apply to themselves, they're never subject to the same laws. And it seems to me that when we have a president in office and he chooses to deliberately thwart the execution of law enforcement and invites persons to come in illegally, which is a tacit approval of, well, it's not a tacit approval, it's an outright approval. What enrages me, and I think this borders enraging, even though the leftists, scorn us for being angry about the destruction of our country. I find that's sort of a just and wise response, righteous anger. I think that man has committed a crime. I think Kamala Harris has committed a crime against America. They have betrayed their oath of office, and they both should have been impeached. I don't know, when the first 200,000 came over illegal with the open, maybe that was enough where we should have eliminated them from office. I, of course, use what a lot of people don't like this word, but I believe in my heart that it is treasonous.
Well, that's the definition of it, isn't it? Is when you go against the rule of law of your own country.
To the benefit of a foreign country, to the benefit of our enemies or foreign nations.
That's why I took the oath to protect our country against those foreign and domestic terrorists and people that want to hurt our country. I am proud of that oath. I stand by that oath, even though I'm retired. I took that oath several times in my career, and that oath means nothing to them. They deliberately and have continued, as we speak today, continue to obliterate the Constitution. And so here we are trying to figure out the number one question is why? Why are they doing this? Why would they do this? Why would they want to hurt our own country? And I think it's several reasons. One, the initial one was, well, because they want votes. And yeah, maybe that's one of them. But I think it's bigger than that. I think they want the power and the control of more people that they can have control over. They're going to make them vote. They're going to count them in the census and give them additional representation in Congress. So they'll always have the House of Representatives under their control and keep us Americans away from it. And I think that fundamentally changes the fabric of our country. And when you do that, you do it one neighborhood at a time. And how do you do it? Well, you do it with an influx of millions of people that will literally change the how your neighborhood looks. And when people are listening to this, they're going to say, "Yes, right. Look at New York. Look at Chicago. Look at Denver. Look at North Carolina. Look at Cincinnati. Look at Dallas, Texas. Look at cities that you would never hear
And
other
look at the
people."
little tiny cities across the nation. And see, you and I, Victor, we're Americans, and we share a common American culture. We are
Yeah.
Americans. It is not just an idea. It's just not the grand, beautiful statements of our Declaration and Constitution and all of our other documents from the founding. It is also what you and I share as a culture. And when you bring in a great, massive population, of course, like you said, 150 countries, so it's not all Spanish speaking south of the border, but it dilutes our culture, replaces our culture with this bizarre failed ideology of multiculturalism. Diversity is not our strength. Our unity is that we share an American culture. And I believe that that is one of the things that they're doing because America, the Iranians and so many in the Middle East will call us the great Satan. Israel's the little Satan. We're not going to talk about the Middle East. But the reality is that America is what is like Trump is standing between the two of us and them, right? He says that all the time.
Right.
America in the world is standing between the really, really bad guys and the rest of the world that would yearn to be free and desire to be more like America. And we are the good guys. And if you take us away from who we are as an American culture that was formed over hundreds of years, then we're no longer America.
And the word that comes to mind, the number one word, is assimilation. And I write this word in my book because I use my own family as an example. I'm the product of the American dream because my parents came here. They came here legally, but they did something. Forget the legal part. Okay, they came here legally, but they assimilated to the United States. And people tell me, what does that mean? And you already said it. It's the culture. They assimilated to. How do you assimilate to the United States? Well, this country it's God, it's family, it's law and order, and that's what my parents did. They came and respected the laws of the Constitution. They adopted them. They adopted the culture of the United States. They wanted to be U.S. citizens. They became U.S. citizens, and here we are. There's a lot of people that do it that way, and that's what I promote. The problem is that that doesn't exist right now. It hasn't existed for a while because the people that are coming out, and when I say it's not everyone, of course, there's still people that want to do that, but a lot of them that are coming out are coming, they don't want to be Americans. They just want to be present in this country with the values and culture of theirs. And so let's pick Venezuela. Let's pick Venezuela for example. They're coming from these communist socialist countries and trying to adopt those failures here. But I believe now that we got people coming in here with an actual agenda of these gangs, these organized criminals to try to take over with some special instructions, because these people they're coming here and literally taking over apartment complexes, killing people, raping us, doing all these crazy stuff to us. And you're like, wait a minute, if you really wanted to come to the U.S., and you really were an economic migrant, you would abide by everything that the United States would ask you to do, and you would blend in and assimilate to your community. And another thing, that the way you assimilate is by not being a public charge to the government. My parents were not. My parents worked very, very hard to raise my two sisters and I without asking for help from the government, because that was the prerequisite. The background that they did on them is saying, we're going to let you come in, but that means that you're going to be able to take care of yourself and your family without getting so many resources from the government. And that's what they did. They didn't want anybody. They were so happy to have the opportunity.
People used to have the people that came had the self-respect to not want to be on the dole when they came into the country. They wanted to stand on their own 2 feet and make it. And it's hard, but that has been the tradition of America. And maybe that's why the people of America, despite what we've been facing, I'm seeing them rise up. And I'm calling it the American Enlightenment. It is an awakening, not a woking, but an awakening of that spirit and the realization of the danger that we're in. And they're not cowering as, snowflakes. They're mixed metaphor, but they're not cowering. They are rising to the occasion. But maybe it's because that when my grandpa, they all came from Ireland. And when they actually came in wagon trains across to the Dakotas. He was a baby on a wagon train. They were actually surrounded by Indians at one point because they had a criminal with them, and they gave it to him because he was a really bad guy. He had, I think, raped one of their girls, and so they gave it to him, and he was never seen again. You can well imagine. They believed in the rule of law. Those Indians did. Anyway, when people came, they might be washing floors and have 3 jobs. My dad had 3 jobs. So many of my family have had many, many jobs. It's hard, but today it's almost treated as if, well, we can't let them have any hardship in coming to America. We need to fly them in, and then we need to hand them the cell phones and the cards with the money on them, the bank cards, and we need to hand them everything, give them a house. And they don't have to speak English, and we're going to let them vote. By the way, they don't even know what they're voting for, but you can't without speaking English. But we can't make it hard. But maybe that's what made your parents and my great grandparents such true Americans, because they did work hard and sacrifice.
Yes, and when this all started in 2021, one of the arguments that I started hearing, or narratives, if you will, from the Venezuelans, who's one of the bigger sections that have been coming in, that they're escaping socialism and therefore they were going to be conservative. No, they couldn't have been. That couldn't have been furthest from the truth. You actually just said it. They are seeing exactly what they were getting in Venezuela, but actually getting the government to take care of them. So it's socialism on steroids, where not only in Venezuela they treat them poorly, there's no jobs and all this stuff and all, but out of a sudden it's going to work in the United States, and they're giving you money, they're going to give me a visa, they're going to give me. Well, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? And there's a lot of people that have come over lately that would have never come to this country, ever. They were fine. They had a house, they had a business, and they said, wait a minute, what's going on over there? They're giving out free visas. You can get into free finance. Well, do. So they come over as well. And it's got to the point where we just cannot absorb. We cannot. You mentioned, and I'm glad that you mentioned the small communities, because the majority of this country is made up of small counties and small cities. They are the most affected at the school systems, the healthcare system, and the police system. And I talk to these people and they tell me, Victor, we cannot absorb them. We just can't. So something has to give, Elizabeth. What gives? Public safety is one of the first to go.
That's right. And, the towns in Ohio that we've been seeing so much lately about, the culture goes, because Haiti is not Ohio. That's just a fact. No. And what I liked, often I will imagine in my mind, and I'll ask this question of people, we have one America. Now, do you think, Victor, that we need 2 Venezuelans? 2 Venezuelas? Do we need 2 Mexicos?
No.
Do we need 2 Guatemalas? Do we need 2 Bolivias? Are any of these countries so fabulous that we should replace our culture, our laws, our history, our people with theirs? And now you could look at the map of North America and Central and South America and say, oh, well, here's Venezuela South and Venezuela North. Here's Mexico South, Mexico North. What is the point? Mexico could be a wonderful country. Venezuela was once a wonderful country. France, I don't want France to go away. I don't want Mexico to go away. I don't want America to go away. But what our elites are doing is introducing, because I believe of a deep-seated Marxist totalitarian desire to control. And what you have to do is introduce chaos, lawlessness, and you have to replace the population and that pride. You have to introduce hopelessness, as you mentioned before. And
Right.
so to do this, they are literally stripping us of our culture because it's founded on God and the belief that God is our God, not government. And that is
That's right.
anathema to them. It's an abomination to them. And, when you bring in people from third world countries who have not known that great rule of law and constitutional principles, but the responsibility that comes with it, a Venezuelan baby could grow up to be a Thomas Jefferson, but it's going to be hard in Venezuela. And we don't want Venezuelans who've grown up in a third world mentality that do not want to become Americans, but like you said, bring Venezuela with them. So yeah, let me ask you a
Well,
few
the
more.
country.
Go ahead.
Let me ask really quick on that, and I'll end on this because of the countries you mentioned, and they're third world countries. But the culture of these countries is the people born into these cultures are very different than ours. And I'm going to give you one quick example: is interaction with police. When you're born in the United States and you are trained, because my parents trained me, and I use that word purposefully. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about raising me.
Train
I'm talking
you
about
up.
training
Train you up from the scriptures.
me up on how to respect authority. And I'm not just talking about a police officer. I'm talking about the person behind the counter. I'm talking about my teacher and respect my elders and all that, right? Well, we grew up with that. We grew up respecting the flag. We grew up with this. I was kind of afraid of the police a little bit. I would, kind of tighten up when a police officer, the presence of a police officer, right? That's a good thing. That does not exist in all these, and starting with Mexico and down the line. That alone, that's just one small example. It doesn't exist in these countries. They are raised the other way around. The police is corrupt. They're against you, and you need to kill them. So then you import that mentality and that training here. You're seeing what you were seeing today.
Exactly. My next question was that, they try to obscure the idea, well, deny and obscure the idea that Kamala was in charge of resolving border issues. And so they introduced this thing of the root causes. But let's just use their euphemistic sleight of hand there and say root causes. She didn't seem to seriously take Mexico. She went down to the three border states, and she gave her performative speech and said, "Don't come." Of course, they came the moment she left. But in Mexico, I'm going to throw out what I call the root causes, the root cause, the single greatest cause, and you tell me if she addressed this root cause in Mexico. Mexico's root cause is that it's a failed state run by the cartels. It is a criminal state. It is essentially and I want to go into this in a minute, a terrorist state in that it is utterly lawless. Terror is used to subjugate law-abiding citizens and against their border, their neighbor, the United States of America. You could almost call us an enemy of Mexico. So the root cause of Mexico's migration and our problems on the border is the failed state status of Mexico, informally, of course, and because it's run by criminal cartels. Am I right about that?
You're 100% correct. Stated very eloquently. That I speak about a lot. Mexico is not our friend. Mexico is not our partner. So because we have billions of dollars in trade, all of a sudden everything else, everything in public safety, cartels, murders, drugs, fentanyl, sex trafficking, all of that goes out the window because of the trade. And that's why she didn't go there, and that's why she didn't address it, because the money and the corruption and the power is more than everything else that we will suffer. We have lost more people to counterfeit and fentanyl pills in this country than any other war combined, and no one blinks an eye. No one cares, because it's not a bullet that killed them. It wasn't a bomb that killed them, but it was a poisoning of a substance that is coming through Mexico through the help of China. So they start talking about China. You start talking about Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, Iran. My goodness. Well, all of these countries know that if they're in Mexico, they're as good as being in the U.S., because Mexico has facilitated their transit through their country to enter ours. So a logical person, a common sense person would say, well, let's address Mexico, right? Let's start there. You don't have to go all the way to China. Let's start in Mexico. If they can't come into Mexico, we have at least another border there. It's a country, for crying out loud, attached to us, not 6,000 miles away in the Middle East. So let's address them. No, ignore it. And the problem is that not only has the U.S. ignored it, Mexico has ignored the crime problem and the cartel presence and the parallel government that the cartels are running. So what does that do? It creates this open field of just nonchalant free for all, which is what's happening. And so right now, it's the cartels. It's the best time for them. They used to be the drug trafficking organizations. We used to call them the DTOs. No longer are they just that. These cartels are involved in not just the movement of illicit substances and drugs, but of human beings. They took over the human smuggling and the human trafficking business because they saw the billions of dollars that was giving up. And they also get involved in the lime trade, in the petroleum trade, in the steel trade, and very others. And of course, extortion and kidnapping is how they enforce their day-to-day operations. But here's the key. The cartels are the soldiers. As big and as sophisticated and as rich as they are, they're actually the soldiers to the bigger problem of the countries that I mentioned, China and the others. So how powerful and how big are these countries that they have these highly sophisticated networks of organized criminals doing the work for them? This is very, very dangerous, because now we're talking national security. Now we're talking the big picture. So we've concentrated so much on illegal immigration, and the people come in here, which is, yes, a big problem, and we'll continue to talk about it. But let's not ignore the bigger cause. And the bigger cause is China and others trying to come into our country and overtake us. That, I think, and in the last 3.5 years, I think the United States citizens, a lot of them kind of became desensitized a little bit to the illegal immigration system, because they saw the people coming through the river all the time on Fox News, and, oh, there's 100,000 more, and there was 210,000 this month. There was another 100, and all of a sudden it kind of did something to them. Like they kind of thought, well, that's just the way it is. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's another distraction, if you will. That's another part of the agenda, and the formula is using millions of people, using the fentanyl, the methamphetamine, the drugs, the weapons, everything else that comes into this country, the money, for crying out loud, the money laundering involved in everything that I'm talking about, and in enriching these countries. Just a couple of weeks ago in East Texas, they stopped 2 Chinese nationals with bars of gold. Yes, I mean it just proves that all of this is for the control through money and many other means. So this is where then you start saying, wait a minute. You talk about the root cause. She certainly could have had the ability to talk to starting with Mexico and then follow through with these other countries. But when you fail to do that purposefully, then you're sending the signal that it's okay. And
And I
even when
think,
you
again, we talked about the word treason, and so many people say, oh, well, you can't call this treason. I think average Americans, like myself, like you, we believe that treason is destroying your country, overthrowing it. You may use treason if there were, I don't know, 200,000 Americans that took up arms and stormed the White House or whatever and call that treasonous. But I think it's much more broad than that. It includes so many different ways to commit treason. Well, you could just sell top secret documents to China. But opening the door to criminal cartels and drug dealers and terrorists is just, and communist China is
Yes.
the equivalence to treason. Now, I grabbed a couple of images. I may afterwards in production, post-production, put it up on the screen. I had been reading an article about the Jalisco New Generation cartel, and it's CJNG.
CJ&G.
Yeah, yeah. And it's hard sometimes to keep all those acronyms. But what they have is an image. There's a table with an image of, I don't know if it's El Chapo or whatever, but very military. And then behind this, there's a guy with a rocket launcher and all these men with rocket launchers and massive military style weapons, not AKs, much, much more than that. And so I just threw in a search because I knew exactly what I find. And I go find the terrorist organization called the Lion's Den. It's an offshoot. It runs out of Nablus and neighboring villages. If I had shown you this picture without the flags, you would not be able to distinguish them. They look exactly like military organizations that can go to war. It could be unconventional war, whatever, but it is warfare and it is terrorism. And so my question is, I've thought about this for years and trying to tease out the solutions. And I think that the first thing that President Trump should do, should he, God willing, please Lord, take office with J.D. Vance, who's going to kick butt in that office, I think that they should declare all of the Mexican cartels, any Venezuelan, any cartel, and I don't know the difference between a gang and a cartel. I know there's differences. I think every one of them should be declared terrorist organizations. I think we should treat the nation state of Mexico as a nation, give them an opportunity to forswear being a terror supporting state. And then I would also declare MS-13 and these gangs as terrorist organizations as well. Once you do that, then law enforcement is transformed and we can take the steps. Why should we be held hostage as our children, as our future, as our country is destroyed? Why should we be held hostage because our laws are so just and righteous and true? We need to designate them as foreign terrorist organizations. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Music to my ears, Elizabeth. Music to my ears. I wrote about it in my book. I've been pushing for that designation for many years. And what you described is how I start when I go around and speaking to police groups. I have a slide, and I have half split. In the screen is split in half. One side is a picture of cartels, and the other picture is a picture of a terrorist organization, ISIS. And I asked
We're
them,
doing the same thing.
which one's which? And they never know which one's which. You can't tell. And that is my point, is that they are terrorist organizations, because my next slide are the activities that a terrorist organization is involved in. Well, you put the list. Well, guess what? The list of the cartels is worse, way worse than that of ISIS. Can you imagine if ISIS had killed 300,000 Americans? What do you think we would do? Well, why is it that because the Sinaloa cartel and the Cartel Jalisco New Generation and Gulf Cartel and CDN and the others are responsible for these 300,000 deaths and nothing has come of it? There's absolutely none, not one response to them to take them and hold them accountable. This is what needs to be done. Now, that designation is very important. I think President Trump is going to finally do it. Mexico will beg not to happen. They did to him last time because it would imagine they would be sponsoring and they would be hosting terrorists in their country, and it would be
They would have to take responsibility for what they've been
yes,
doing for decades.
correct, and they're not going to want to. But we're at a different point in our lives here where we have to now react with very very drastic solutions, and they have to benefit the United States. I'm not ashamed of being America first because you know who isn't? Mexico. Mexico's not ashamed of being a Mexico first, and neither is Venezuela. So I get called names because I want to put America first, and I don't care because I need to protect our sovereignty and our way of living and our future for our kids and our grandchildren. So that being said, the designation does many things. Now, some people think that automatically it means military intervention. It doesn't. It means it's on the table, which I'm glad for it. And I support it 100%, but it has to be the last part of the solution. You have to designate them because when you designate them, by the way, the true designation comes to the State Department. It's not the actual president that declares it. It's the State Department that declares them and under their jurisdiction. And so once they're officially declared, we then get to move in. Several things happen. DOD resources are applied. We now get to seize everything, money, bank accounts, properties that are here in the U.S. and in Mexico. We take it because that's where we hurt them, right? Financially, we always known that you have to follow the money. So you have to hurt them where it counts. But then what you do is now the people that are working with and the people that I'm talking about are the gangs in our country, in Chicago, in LA, in New York, in Seattle, in all these towns that are working directly with the Sinaloa cartel and the Cartel Jalisco New Generation and others by buying their product. They are now, guess what? They are dealing and they are now messing and interacting with a terrorist organization, which you couldn't if you were dealing and start emailing an ISIS member. You're going to get a knock on your door, right? By law enforcement. Well, the same thing. And I think that eventually you go pick up these gang members, the Latin Kings, the Black Gangster Disciples, 18th Street gangs, all these big gangs that work directly with the cartels because the cartels are here working with them, making sure that their product and the human beings are being pushed and distributed throughout the U.S. and the child trafficking. So then we get to pick them up and different rules apply. The rules and the techniques and my investigative techniques that I did as a special agent are no longer good. They are stale and
They're
outdated.
useless.
Useless. I'm going to identify you. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to do a bank account. It's going to take me 18 months to 2 years to take you and your crew down. Those days are over.
We're at war. We're at war.
We're at war. And we
need to be on a war footing. And I don't know why I do know, but any sane person who desires good for this country could only be for that. However, I think that Democrats generally would not, even California Democrats. And I say, I don't care. This is this interview, and I'm doing a series of interviews, Victor, with so many, but this about the border specifically has got to be a cornerstone, a foundation. It's the keystone. It's all of it. Because if we let this go by, I saw J.D. Vance being interviewed in the All One podcast the other day, and he was brilliant. And they were talking about actually a slightly different subject, but related. And he said, look, sometimes you get a once in a life opportunity, and it's going to pass you by. And if you do not take that opportunity at that time, President Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., all of the rest, if you don't take the opportunity when you have the people, the will, and the greatest threat that we've ever faced, and the most corrupt administration of in the history of the United States is the Biden-Harris because of this. If they don't act now and act decisively, boldly, bravely, with great courage, and without apology, then it's over. Then it is over.
And guess what, Elizabeth? It's going to benefit every American. It's not going to benefit conservative Americans or Republicans.
No.
The Californias of the world are going to see when their town starts getting cleaned up with less crime, with less drug dealers, with less homelessness, all that, they're going to start realizing, wait a minute, I like this. And that's how you start winning them over. Now, I'm like you. I don't care whether you're on board or not. We're going to take them out. We're going to clean them out. It's going to benefit you. Well, you're not going to be anything other than acceptance of that. And you will say, wow, this is good. I could actually walk down this part of town that I could never go into anymore. I could actually visit this other restaurant that I could never go to because of the crime. Now you're going to start seeing the day-to-day difference that my kid actually could ride the bike from here to the park. And so the change of life, I think, is going to be it's going to take a while. It's not overnight, but you're going to see that that these Californias of the world, they're going to enjoy this, because I don't know of anyone that doesn't enjoy public safety and being safe in your own house and neighborhood. I don't know of anybody, what party you're from. I don't care what you believe in. Everybody wants to be safe. And when you start making people safe, truly safe, with police forces and law and order, they're going to like that.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
not going to be opposed.
I don't care what party you have. If you've got kids, if you've got grandkids, if you've got a wife, if you've got an aged mother and father, you want them safe. You want your friends safe. You want your colleagues. You lost your partner in Mexico, killed by, I guess, was it the Sinaloa?
It was the Zetas cartel.
And so if we love people, if we love God, if we love our country, if we love people, just love thy neighbor as thyself, the very minimum thing that we would do is want them to be in a safe environment, the kind of country that we once had. And yeah, that, in a 2018 parade, Kamala Harris chanted, "Down with deportation, down with deportation." Should we deport illegals?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to join forces with Tom Homan, who's a good friend of mine, and there will be the biggest mass deportation ever assembled in the United States. And when people think that, oh, that's cruel, and no, it's not. This is what we're going to do. There's different categories of illegals, and I think I've already alluded to that fact. You got the worst of the worst, are the first ones to go, the criminals and all, especially the ones that just came in. By the way, all the ones that come in under these permits, these false permits and paroles that they're going to find themselves with absolutely no status. They're going to get picked up and they're going to be sent home. Overstays. There are more overstays in this country that came in with a visa, and they think that because they came in with a visa and overstayed their visa, that for some reason they're okay. No, you get to go too. So there's going to be an opportunity, and I think there's a plan here to say, listen, gather your belongings, gather your businesses, get everything in order, and send yourself, self-deport yourself. And we're going to give you an opportunity to do it. I think a lot of them will, and you're going to go. Because meanwhile, we're not going to wait. Simultaneously, we're going to start picking people up, and we're going to make an example, not just for the United States, to show that we are in fact a sovereign country, that our laws are supposed to be respected here. We're being disrespected from Mexico and everybody else. And so the message is going to be sent very clear to the rest of the world that if you come into this country illegally, there will be consequences. And I'm talking about prosecutions. I'm talking about holding people accountable other than the ones that are just here illegally. There has to be. We're at a point that we have absolutely no choice. It's not about, well, I don't think we deport, and no. And there's a lot of categories. There's a lot of people that have been in this country illegally for 20, 30 years. We need to look at them as well. And we need to say, what's going on with you? There's a lot of programs, there's a lot of things that we could do. There's a lot of good things that we could do for them. There's a lot of things that we could say, you know what? You need to regroup. You need to reset. And you're going to have to come back to this country legally. And maybe there'll be a way for us to do that for you, because you're not per se a criminal. You've never committed a crime in the United States. Yeah, you came into the country illegally. I understand that's a crime, but we have to start somewhere. And deportation is the key. Do you know that we have a record number of people already with a deportation order by an immigration judge walking around our country? Criminals convicted of serious crimes, of drug crimes, sex crimes, property crimes, that have been ordered by a judge, and they never left.